Logan's Run, Book 1. The seeds of the Little War were planted in a restless summer during the mid-1960s, with sit-ins and student demonstrations as youth tested its strength. By the early 1970s, over 75% of the people living on Earth were under 21 years of age. The population continued to climb, and with it the youth percentage. In the 1980s, the figure was 79.7%. In the 1990s, 82.4%. In the year 2000, critical mass. Her hair was matted, her face streaked and swollen. One knee oozed slow blood. She's cut it on a steel abutment. A stitching pain lived in her side. She ran. There was a high lover's moon, and the night was full of shapes. Shadows slid on shadows. When had she crossed the river? Was it night? Was it last night or the night before? Where was she now? She didn't know. Off to her right she could see an unending length of metal mesh beyond a stretch of dead asphalt. Far out on the pavement sea was a cluster of teeter swings, an industrial nursery. It had to be Stoneham or Sunrise. Perhaps her baby was there. She veered to the left away from the mesh, into the deep night black between buildings. Abruptly, she found her passage blocked by a high board barrier. She turned. Maybe she could double back over the river. If she could only rest. Wait! She froze, remained motionless. There was someone in the shadows ahead. A silent scream ripped at her throat. Sandman! Panic drove her heart against her chest in the shuddering strokes. She spun about, clawed at the blistered boards, her fingernails breaking as she sought a grip on the coarse wood. The fence was too high. For an instant, a century, she clung there, trying to will her muscles, to lift her oh-so-heavy body. But all the energy was gone. Something tore inside of her, and she crumpled at the base of the wood. Huddled into herself, she studied the char-black flower crystal centered in the palm of her right hand. A few days ago it had been a warm blood red, just as 7 years before it had been electric blue, and 7 years earlier sun yellow, a color for each 7 years of her life. Now she was 21, and her flower was dull black, sleep black, death black. The figure moved calmly toward her, across the moon pavement. She didn't look up. She stared at her palm, because her future and her past were written there. All of her days and her nights and her fears and hopes. Why had she believed in sanctuary? Insane. Impossible. Why hadn't she been like all the others who had accepted sleep? Now the dark figure in black stood over her, but she did not look up. She didn't beg, because begging was useless. Instead, she remade the world. She was not here, outlawed and condemned, shamed and terrified. She was in sanctuary, on a wide, wind-lazy meadow, beside a cool stream silver, in a world in which time did not exist. Then why was her hand scrabbling under her torn clothing for the Verbro knife she had hidden there? Why the urgency to plunge the buzzing steel through breast and rib into her heart? Why? She saw the gun come up. The Homer! She saw the moonlight dazzle off the dark blue barrel. The Homer! She saw the pale, tight-set face of the Sandman, and saw his eyes above the gun, and his fingers whitened on the trigger. The Homer! There was a soft explosion. That was the last thing she heard, and the last thing she felt was raw, blinding agony as the Homer struck, burned, ripped, and unraveled her. Logan was tired, but the little man kept talking. "You know how it is, citizen," he said. "Nobody feels like he's done it at all. All the traveling, all the girls, all the living. I'm no different from anybody else. I'd like to live to be 25, 30, but it just isn't going to happen. And I can accept that. I've got no regrets, none to linger on. I mean, I've lived a good life, and I've had my share, and nobody can say that Sawyer is a whiner." He was talking compulsively. As long as he talked, he didn't have to think. Logan had seen a lot of them on last day, talking away the final hours. "You know what I'm gonna do?" asked the man, whose palm flower was blinking red, then black, then red. He didn't wait for a reply. He went on in a rapid voice, telling Logan exactly what he was going to do. Logan had changed to grays back in DS headquarters, and he wondered if the man would be talking to him if he were in his black tunic. No doubt he would. Sawyer was obviously the type who went through life unworried about deep sleep, men, and guns, which was proper. He was a good citizen, and good citizens made a stable world. "And then I'm going over to the Castlemont glass house and get myself 3 of the youngest, prettiest girls in the stag room. One will be blonde, with deep blue eyes and blue-white hair. Then I'll get one with short black hair and one with golden brown skin. 3 beauties. I'll hear they'll do anything for you when you're on last day." The man looked at his palm. The flower bloomed red, then black, then red. "Did you ever wonder if the thinker makes mistakes, the same as people do? Because it doesn't seem like I've turned 21. It really doesn't. It seems I turned 14 maybe 5 years ago. That would make me just 19. He said this without conviction. Remember the day when my flower changed and I was 14? I was in Japan, and it was the first time I'd played Fujiyama. Wonderful mountain, inspiring. Ever see it?" Logan nodded. He'd seen it. "I sure remember the day. Couldn't have been more than 5 years ago, maybe 6. Do you think the machine could make that kind of mistake?" Logan didn't want to remember how many years had passed since he'd been 14. Of late, he had tried not to think about this. His flower was still steady red, but... "No," said Sawyer, answering his own question. "The machine wouldn't make that kind of mistake." He was silent for a long moment. Then, in a quiet voice, he said, "I suppose I'm scared." His flower blinked red, black, red, black. "Most people are," said Logan. "But not this scared," said the man. He swallowed, raised a hand. "Don't get me wrong, citizen. I'm no coward. I'm not going to run. I have my pride. The system is right. I know that. World can only support so much life. Got to be a way to keep the population down. I've been loyal, and I won't change now." The two sat quietly as the rumbling belt carried them up through the 3-mile complex. At last the man spoke again. "Do you really believe that Homer is as terrible as they say it is?" "Yes," said Logan. "I believe it. What gets me is the way it finds a runner. Once it's fired at him, the way it homes in on the body heat. They say it burns your whole nervous system, every nerve in your body." Logan didn't answer. The man's face was gray. A muscle leaped in his cheek. He swallowed. "God," he said. Sawyer drew in a deep breath. A spot of color returned to his face. "Of course it's necessary. Without the DS men and homers, there'd be a lot more runners. We couldn't have that. Runner deserves what he gets, if you ask me. He doesn't have to run. A sleep shop isn't so bad, is it? We toured one when I was 12. Me and a friend of mine in Paris. Clean and nice. It isn't so bad." Logan thought of the sleep shops, with their gaily painted interiors, The attendants in soft pastel robes, the electronically augmented angel choirs, the skin spray of hallucinogen, which wiped away a confused look of suffering and replaced it with a fixed and joyful smile. He thought of the quiet, dim-lit grave room, lined with aluminum shelving, and of the neat rows of steel foil canisters, marked with the names and numbers of men. "No," said Logan, "it isn't so bad." Sawyer was talking again. "Sometimes, though, I wonder about those DS men. I could never do it. What they have to do. Not that I'm defending runners. Not scum. I don't defend scum. But I just wonder how a man can fire a homer into—" "I get off here," said Logan. He left the belt. Logan was annoyed at his action. He didn't live in this part of the complex. His unit was almost a mile beyond, but the man's constant chatter had frayed his patience. He knew this section, of course. A year ago he'd hunted a man here, runner named Nathan. He closed off the memory. Idly he began to walk the covered thoroughfare. Ahead was the Jewel building. Logan paused to survey the vast mural which gave the structure its name. A climbing mosaic composed of tiny bits of fireglass, brilliantly arranged to commemorate the burning of Washington. Orange, purple, and raw red flames jeweled halfway up the facade. Bodies flamed, buildings smoked and tumbled. Yet the awesome masterwork was flawed, incomplete, stark. Gaping areas broke the pattern. Only the famed muralist, Robler 7, could handle the corrosive fireglass. And when he had accepted sleep, his secret died with him. The project would never be finished. Directly beneath the mural, a man with a sign. Logan registered shock. The man was about 15, with rounded, girlish features and large, soulful eyes. A silver fringe of beard silked his chin, and his hair was worn shoulder length. The sign around his neck said, "Run." He sat, image still, in the middle of the walkway. Several angry citizens circled him. One of them spat on the bearded man. "Filth! Scum! Coward!" The man smiled patiently at his tormentors. He handed each of them a thin script sheet from a stack in his lap. "This is disgusting," said a fat woman, balling the script in her hand. "Unlawful." As Logan approached, the man held out one of the sheets. He accepted it. "Reject sleep. Run. If there are enough runners, there won't be enough homers. There won't be enough DS men. It is written that the lifespan of man is 70 years and 10. 70 years. Don't settle for 21. Run. Reject sleep." A police parvane settled soundlessly at the edge of the walkway. Logan watched the two lemon-tunicked officers dismount and advance on the bearded man. He did not try to run. They led him away. The paravane lifted back into the evening sky. A woman next to Logan clicked her tongue. "That's the third maniac they've arrested this month. You'd think they were organized. It's frightening." A girl in green milk silks eased out of a doorway and fell into a step beside Logan. He ignored her. The darkness had deepened. The sky was splashed with emerging stars. An air freshener hummed. Logan stopped to watch the tri-dim report. The proscenium of the TD News building brightened. A familiar 300-foot figure took solid form. He smiled warmly down at the crowd. The tri-dimensional newsman was dressed in life leather trim fits. His giant eyes were clear and guileless. "Evening, citizens," he boomed. "This is Madison 24 with the latest news. Trouble in the maze tonight. A gypsy gang war on an express platform near Stafford Heights resulted in 2 deaths. 14 individuals were injured, including 3 gypsies. Police are investigating, and there will be arrest." The immense figure paused for dramatic effect, then continued. "The triple slayer Harry 7 was apprehended earlier today in the Trancas complex. His friends were invited to see him off in the hell car. But not one person showed up, not one. The giant face nodded sternly. Does that tell you something, citizens? It tells me something. Yes, indeed. It tells me that we are a proud, law-loving people, ashamed of runners and killers, and that we are. Logan stopped listening. He became aware of the girl at his side. You're not happy, the girl in green said. I can always tell. I have a gift for knowing, for sensing unhappiness. Her eyes shone with fierce intensity. I sympathize with unhappy men. She placed a soft hand on his waist and pressed lightly. He shook off her hand. Logan walked away, lengthening his stride. I can make you happy, called the girl. Her voice drifted after him faintly. Make you happy. Happy. Logan turned the word over in his mind. Restlessness gnawed at him. You can't buy happiness, but of course you could. The Halusi mill on Robert was one of the city's largest. The drugs administered by trained professionals were non-addictive. Logan had tried several and found that LF produced the happiest effects. Lysergic foam, an extension of the old LSD formula, developed more than a century and a half ago. It requires 60 seconds to run a man's bloodstream. After that, expanded consciousness. Synthetic bliss. LF, Logan told the man in white. Dosage? Standard. Follow me, please. Logan was taken into the blue room. A small, padded chamber with a table, a chair, and a blue floor, and nothing else. A woman was coming out of the room. Her face was papery, her eyes still partially glazed. Logan took the drug flask handed him, swallowed the contents. Have a good lift, the man in white said as he closed the door. Logan sat down in the chair, keeping his eyes closed for a full minute, allowing the LF to work itself into his blood. Then he relaxed, opened his eyes. A terrible illumination fired the room, and Logan knew it was going to be a bad lift. Window, he thought, got to reach the window. It was open when he reached it, and he fell out of the window, dropping down rapidly into the heart of the 3-mile complex. A short, squat man caught him. You were running, the man said. That's fine. No, I was falling. There's a big difference. It was important that he understood. I fell from a window. Fell. Logan twisted away, began to run. He ran through hissing fire galleries. The world smelled of dream dust, and a million voices were dirging the coda to black flour. The short, squat man dropped him with a blow. Again, said the man, crouched. But Logan had the gun. He didn't need to take any more of this damned punishment. He pulled the trigger, and the world exploded. On the way out, the attendant grinned at Logan. You were really lifted. Like another? No thanks, said Logan, and he left the building. He didn't feel any better. On the upper level, he slowed. A group of youngsters approached him, their palms glowing like blue fireflies in the soft dark. As they passed, Logan heard snatches of heated argument. The Reddies don't remember we've got rights too. They just better begin to... Echoes of the little war. Logan moved on, toward the play of colored lights in the glass house ahead. The big dome was frosted in white. The interior images were indistinct. A confrontation of naked masked bodies formed a high-arched entrance, and the steps leading inside were illumined from below. Pleasure, gleamed a step. Satisfaction, gleamed another. Rare delights, gleamed a third. Logan entered. Your pleasure is our pleasure, sir, a flax-haired girl said to him mechanically. She was seated at a flow desk and wore red satin trans pants. Logan placed his right palm flat to the desk. An inaudible click The desk would bill him for the visit. He walked into the stag room. It was awash in sexuality. Here were beach girls from Mexico and California, Japanese maidens with shy eyes, Italian girls with mooned bodies, pert Irish lads, slim exotics from Calcutta, cool English women, and full-figured French girls, all here because they were lonely, or bored, or oversexed, because they were looking for someone new or escaping from someone old. For no reason at all except that the glass house was here to be used, and it was a time for mingling and touching and a shadow search for love. You never find the people that you go to meet in dreams. A girl with a blue palm swayed toward Logan. She was Eurasian, and at 13, a year away from womanhood. "I'm adept," she said. "You'll find me skilled beyond any others." Logan ignored her, gesturing to an older girl with red hair flowing along her back. She was swan white with deep lashed eyes of coral. "You," he said. The girl glided in his direction. The thin silk of her gown clouded behind her. "Not me," she laughed, linking arms with a blue-gold blonde. Logan was irritated. Ordinarily, he would have been excited, flushed with anticipation. Tonight, he felt dulled by what he saw. He waved another female to him, a lithe girl, with Slavic features and full hips. She smiled and took his hand. They caught a riser up, passing tier on tier, stepped into a glass hall, and moved in darkness to a glass room. The girl told him that her name was Karania 3. "I'm a 3 also," Logan told her. "Don't talk," she said feverishly. "Why do men always want to talk?" Logan sat down on the bed and began to unbutton his shirt. The girl was already nude, having cast aside a thin garment of spun gauze. "How many times have I come to a place like this?" he asked himself. To a lonely, empty house of glass. Glass all around them. Glass walls and ceilings and floors. The bed, glass fiber. The chairs and tables, glass. The building was one vast, transparent globe, shot periodically with colored lights. Each room was equipped to illumine itself at regular intervals, but it was impossible to determine just when a room would flare into brightness. Caught in the act of love-making, a couple would suddenly find themselves tangled in a wash of silver or gold or red, yellow, or green. Other couples around, above, below, would be able to watch them from glass floors, walls, ceilings. Then the light would die and spring into another chamber. "Here," said the girl. "Lie here." Logan eased into the glass foam bedding. She guided his hand, and he gave himself over to this woman, holding and stroking her body in darkness. "Look!" she cried. In the tier above them, bathed in hot gold, a man and woman wreathed in a love heat. Then darkness. The night deepened. Logan and Karenia were frozen in silver, arms and legs twined. They were conscious of the eyes around them in the dome, watching hungrily. Darkness again. Light bloomed, died, flared, and then died in the love depths of the structure, until dawn sketched the glass house. The loving was over and done. "Please visit us again," said the flax-haired girl in the trans pants. Logan exited, saying nothing. Time for duty, no time to sleep. Logan went home to his unit, took a detoxic, flushing his system. But this didn't seem to help. His eyes felt grainy. His muscles ached. He suited up and went down to headquarters. Francis was there when he walked in. The tall man grinned at him. "You look ripped," he said. "Bad night?" Francis never looked ripped. No lifts or glass houses for him. Not before a job, anyway. Francis was cool and clear-headed and sure of himself. Why couldn't he be like that? Actually, there were few DS men who possessed the skill and drive of this friendliness. Loveless man with the mantis-thin body and the black eyes of a hunting cat. Precise, deadly, ruthless. Only the thinker knew how many runners Francis had gunned. "And what does he think of me?" Logan asked himself. Always the casual grin, the light remark, telling you nothing, but judging every move. The hallway was wide and gray and cold, yet Logan felt the warm sweat gathering under his tunic and along his hands as he walked. He'd be all right once he had the gun. He'd be fine. He always was. Soon he'd be hunting, man-tracking a runner somewhere in the city, doing his job as it had been done for years. He'd be all right then. The hallway ended. The two men faced a smooth section of wall metal. "Identities," said a metallic voice. Each man pressed the palm of his right hand against the wall. A panel slid back, revealing an alcove lined with worn black velvet. Gleaming in the velvet, long-barreled and waiting, were the guns. Only a DS man could carry a gun. Each weapon was coded to the operative's hand pattern, set to detonate on any other human contact. Logan reached in his closed fingers around the big pearl-handled revolver, drawing it free of its snug velvet nest. He checked it. Full load. 6 charges. Tangler, Ripper, Needler, Nitro, Vapor, and Homer. Already the sense of power was building in him as he held the gun, weighing it in his hand, letting the light side along the chased silver barrel. Weapons shaped like these had kept the peace in towns, named Abilene and Dodge and Fargo, called 6 guns. Then there were chambers held lead bullets. Now, centuries later, their cargo was far deadlier. "Identities," demanded the wall again. The two men ignored the malfunction. "Identities, please." The report room hummed. The room clicked and flashed metallically. Coding, decoding, indexing, weighing, processing, filing, tracking, rendering its impersonal machine data to the DS operatives, who moved before its faceted wall of insect lights. A dispatcher looked up, saw them. His face was dry and shaved, his expression harried. He picked out a scan record and bustled toward them. "We've been jammed here," he said irritably. "Stanhope's in the field, and I can't locate Webster 16. We've got a runner in pavilion, moving east." The room was a cross mixture of voices. "Come in, Kelly 4. DS at Morningside 712. Come in, Stanhope. Your man is in the maze. Evans 9. Confirm. Runner's destination recorded. 7:04 is Phoenix. Maze car waiting at Palisades. Confirm." Logan swept the alert board. A light went on the 3rd level, east sector. "Who takes him?" he asked. "You do," said the dispatcher. "Francis is on backup." "All right," said Logan. "Give me a scan." "Name, Doyle 10, 14302. His flower, blacked at 39. 539. That would be." He checked a wall chron. 18 minutes ago. He's heading east, up through the complex. So far, he's avoided the maze. I make it he knows about the platform scanners. He's going for Arcade, KG. He must know how the fire galleries interfere with the DS scope. The rest is on board. Good hunting.